mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it alive.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And this time around, I have Sheldon Bailey. He's an author and he's an educator. But before I introduce the topic, tell us about your book, Sheldon.
My book. Okay. So this book was a project of mine a couple of years ago. It kind of came about from one of my fatherly moments. Well, my kids were doing a little bit too much screen time, and I said to them, you need to find something creative to do. And then they challenged me and said, well, you're watching TV. So I turned the TV off and got to writing. And this was a product. Lessons for life from everyday experiences.
Okay.
And what it was, what it came from a deep place within, where I recognized that, learning from life is one of the most powerful things that can happen for anyone. As an educator, I am in adult education all day, every day. And part of that craft requires that you are a lifelong learner. But lifelong learning doesn't just mean being in a traditional classroom. And it's from there that the mentality for me has been changing even at a faster pace. I recognized that something was happening in me, and since then I've been more acute to that change. But yeah, that's the book. It's just speaking to my experiences with children, with my family in general, with friends that I have, and just the lessons that I've learned from very everyday interactions.
Okay. Which is a nice segue then into what we're going to be talking about. Well, how do I remain teachable in pursuit of better tomorrows? How?
All right. So here's the thing. It begins with the mentality. All right. It begins with the mentality of recognizing that there is no shame in recognizing that you don't know. There's no shame in accepting that there's room for more growth, there's room for more knowledge. And once we get to that space where we recognize that we are not complete in the moment, then we start to also pay attention to, okay, where do I need to improve? How can I improve? And then we start to look at where we're living, how we're living, who we're interacting with, and is that actually helping us to be better version of ourselves? And if so, how? Right? So it begins with the mentality of recognizing that there is room for growth, and then we start to you will recognize that you look at life differently once you get into that mentality. Getting past the mentality stage, you recognize that you need to learn, then you start to see the lessons unfold. Right? You start to see the blessing or the teachable moment of missing the bus, of overcooking rice, of because those are, believe me when I tell you, if you are able to look at life with the learner's eye, you will see it.
How do you maintain that mindset though, Sheldon, with all of the distractions? Well, there's a follow-up, so let me have you answer that and then I have the follow-up.
Okay, so maintenance of the mindset. It requires you to appreciate the reality of the experience. And I'll give you an example. And this is from a chapter in one of the chapters in the book, where I wrote about my son, and I speak about my children quite often. I tell people all the time, if you ask me for a story, be prepared to hear about my family.
Okay.
Because That's really and truly, I became a different person when I became a husband and father. Um, bar none.
Mhm.
But there's a chapter I wrote about when my son was learning to ride his bike. Um, we were out. His sister was riding her bike without training wheels. He was still on training wheels, but we were in a park where there was a lot of gravel. Doesn't work well with training wheels.
Mhm.
And I think he was about 3 or 4 at the time. Um, he would sit on his bike and he would look at his sister going by and wonder why he wasn't going by. But he was just sitting there. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't
Mhm.
pedaling. He wasn't doing anything. Just sitting there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then his sister went around the park a couple of times, and then she stopped, jumped off her bike, and went to play with something else. And he declared that his bike was broken. So he jumped off of his bike, went on her bike, sat on it, and then started crying because her bike wasn't going anywhere either.
Mhm.
Right. Um,
Mhm.
and it taught me the importance of not just recognizing our gifts or talents or opportunities, but also making use of them. Just having the bike won't get you anywhere if you're not going to
That's right.
pedal. Right.
Mhm.
When in that moment, when I got that lesson, I was in a place where I needed to apply the resources that I had. And because of how they lined up,
Mhm.
there was no denial. There was no denying that there was something powerful happening in that moment. I had all the resources I needed to move forward in the endeavor that I was undertaking. I just
Mhm.
wasn't applying. And so the
Mhm.
maintenance of the mindset demands that you actually apply it to your life. You actually see the applicability of it. And when you get to that place of seeing that it applies,
Mhm.
then you know, there's no longer a question for you.
There's somebody who's gonna see this and watch this and say yes, but with everything else, everybody there are all of these self-help books, there are all of these different everybody know, and I think because so many persons have labeled themselves whether life coaches or different kind of coaches, people are saying, yeah, it almost trivializes the importance of trying to become better versions of yourself. So
Right.
how do you wade through all of that?
You make it personal.
Oh, okay.
You make it personal. And you do touch on a vulnerable point because at some point along this journey, I too thought about entering the coaching arena,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like you said, once I got into that space, I recognized that I was not going to be helping people
Okay.
if I'm manifesting to have some tool. I'm not the tool.
Wow.
Life is already there. Life is happening, right? And so I'm not the one to tell you, this is something that you need to go and get. No, I encourage people to just
Mm-hmm.
open your eyes and look. Like the class is already in session.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to pay attention,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The whole idea, though, of being in pursuit of a better tomorrow, better relative, how do you determine what is better?
I suggest to you, Noreen, that everybody that opens their eyes every new day is hoping for better than what happened yesterday.
Mm, mm,
The one that
mm,
isn't doing it, and I'm not, and I don't mean to throw shade at anybody. There are people that are
mm,
struggling with different things.
mm,
Um, but we all strive to be better. That's why we're in school. That's why we're in a job. That's why we are, on the internet searching for the next big thing. That's why we're
mm,
out shopping. We're all searching for better. And so when you get to a place where you want a better you,
mm,
right? Then use what you need to look at. How do I get that? What is it? What is it that is gonna get me to that place? Money can't get you to the better you. Yes,
mm,
it can make you look better depending on what the problem is,
mm,
but it won't get you to a better you. And therefore, what is your deficit? It requires a lot of soul searching. It requires a lot of introspection. What is your deficit? What is it that you want to work towards? And then what are the experiences that you're having? because no two lives are unique. No two lives are alike.
Like, yeah.
No two people are alike. So what is it about your experience that is unique to you? Why is it unique to you? There has to be something for it, right? There are so many people, so many ideologies out there that say, if you keep encountering the same scenario over and over, it's because there is a lesson in it for you. And it's not something you're going to come out of until you get the lesson. No, I am not any guru. I'm not any, I'm not going to present myself as a Confucius. But you need to recognize that when life is happening, it's happening for a reason. And my worldview aside, I fully ascribe to that thought process. When things are happening in your life, it's happening for a reason.
Only some of us would get to that space. How then, you've said it basically, but how over time have you remained teachable in pursuit of better tomorrows? How, on a personal level, how is it that you have done that?
Hi, my name is Sheldon Bailey. I am an educational administrator and author of the book Lessons for Life from Everyday Experiences. We will just take a break to get a word from our partners.
Hello, my name is Nikhil Mason, and I want to share with you my journey with Noreen Daly in my communication coaching sessions. As I went through the sessions with Noreen, I was able to recognize my strengths in communication. Some things I didn't recognize that I would do, she was able to unearth and allow me to recognize that these are some strengths that I had. I did have some weaknesses which I was challenged to overcome through research, reviewing other public speakers, and being able to sit before a camera and to speak to an audience, an invisible audience. It was fun, and as a coach, she was patient and she gave good feedback, and she was able to give me the insight into communication as to how to best use my skills, my natural communication strengths to be engaging as a speaker. And I would recommend anybody who seeks to become a more competent communicator to enroll in her program, reach out to her, and I believe you're going to enjoy the journey as much as I did. Thanks.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Buddy program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at landolanguage@gmail.com, because the real question is, how can we help you?
Welcome back. Let us continue our conversation. Okay, I'll maybe start by using it as an example. The person that goes to the gym and sees no results is less likely to continue along the journey. If you start going to the gym and you drop the weight or you build the muscle, you have the motivation to continue. Personally, I have seen where the the mindset change has been an improvement for me and mine. When I accept that my children can teach me, when I accept that my car accident can teach me, when I accept that potential near drowning situation has a lesson in it for me,
Mm.
then I am able to stay in that mind space because I see the truth of it in my own life. So it does require a lot of introspection and paying attention to what is happening to yourself and in yourself in order to stay on that pathway.
Mm. Mm. You read for something that I wrote here because of all of what you've said up to this point. Is the whole idea of being in touch with self, a strong, self-awareness. And for me, I think for a lot of people, it comes with age, it comes with, different experiences. But one of the things that I thought you would have said, but you've kind of alluded to it, is also you said it at the beginning, who you surround yourself with as well in ensuring that you remain teachable. What then do you say to people who sometimes say, but I don't have that much power or leverage in determining sometimes the persons who are around me? What's your response to that?
In just the same way that you can be lonely in a crowd,
Ah,
you can have people around you that are not in your circle. And I would suggest that there has to be some intentionality about who your circle is. Because yes, you might not have a choice with who is around you all the time. You can't control who is around you. But who you let into your inner circle is entirely up to you. And it is not the size of that circle will sometimes depend on who you are as a person. It will depend on who is available and who has earned their spot. But I do believe that there has to be intentionality in protecting who it is that is in your circle of influence. And those persons can change over time. Those persons can and will change over time. That sometimes we get stuck in the mindset that, because this person was there for me at this time of my life, or I was there for this person at this time of my life, it is going to be lifelong. It doesn't always happen that way. It doesn't always need to happen that way. People enter your life for a reason or a season. Like they come in, there is something that happens, and then paths diverge, and that's okay. But accepting the power that you have to decide who it is that is in your circle of influence is important. Not anybody that comes your way has to be in your circle.
Hmm, 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 hmm. I wanted to highlight that because especially as an educator myself, and we encounter young, and I'm in adult learning. Well, I say to them sometimes they're selectively adult, but I recognize that that's one of, above anything else, sometimes that's one of the lessons that they sometimes struggle with in terms of who they, have around them. And I think they sometimes feel that because somebody's around me means that I have to let them in. And you just said it. It's not everybody who's around you has to be let in. And I there's a phrase that I don't not remembering who originally that you are the basically it speaks to the fact that the 5 persons that you associate with the most, basically they're saying that you have bits and pieces of them. That's really it in a nutshell. And I don't think some of us recognize that that's actually true. And we really have to be intentional. Yeah. And it's not just those who are quote unquote out there, it's also even family. Because sometimes you really don't, you're kind of not a choice sometimes,
Well, that's they say that family, you don't get to choose your family, but you get to choose your friends. All right. And even though you don't get to choose your family, the sad reality is sometimes have to we have to get to the place where family becomes a blood relation only. And it is sad.
Yeah.
It is not ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but it is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we sometimes you get to a place where a family and I grew up in a strong family, a
Mm-hmm.
tight family. My every intent is to build the same thing in my house.
Mm-hmm.
But if it comes to when it comes to a place sometimes where family members need to be acquaintances only.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
and, you know, if like you said, that kind of thinking though it doesn't come, it tends to come later on,
Yeah.
and that is the piece that reinforces the need to remain humble and
Mm-hmm.
remain open to learning as you grow, because that's the only way that some of these lessons are gonna come.
Yeah. 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 You said you dropped a lot of gems. But if there is one main idea you'd want to leave with my listeners and with my viewers, what would that main idea be?
That main idea would be life happens for a reason. We have very limited control about what happens to us and around us, but what we take out of it is entirely up to us. And when we enter into situations, when we enter into any day with the mindset of, there is something in this day that's gonna make me better tomorrow, whether it is a disappointment or success or a challenge or a problem that you're able to overcome in the moment, whatever it is that is happening, there is a lesson in there that will help to build you if you're only open to seeing it and accepting it.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sheldon.
Not a problem, Noreen. Thank you for having me.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for